right, so today we are going to talk about something very cool. We're going to talk about our properties of the real number system, so math properties. Now, if you wanted to, you could print this off, which is going to be the notes. So if you have a printer, you can go back into Schoology and then you can pull this up and print it, because that way you have less to write. But I will create this whole thing for those of you who don't have a printer, but just know that this is available for those of you who don't want to take all of the notes. Okay, so since we're going to do a lot of notes that look like this, we are just going to turn our notebook this way, okay? And we are going to, right here on this, can you see like the margin line? Okay, we're going to use this whole thing as a table. Okay, so we're going to go across the top there. And then we're going to split it into 3 sections about. So I'm trying to think like maybe here and here. So I'm going to draw a line down like this. And notice my lines aren't straight. However, if you want to use a ruler, please feel free to do so. Maybe like, so here, maybe about here. Okay. Okay, so across the top, we're going to write what we're going to do. So we're going to have our property. So our math property is very simple, or very similar to what we used to say rules, the rules that we can use in math, okay? So we're going to do 2 things. We're going to talk about what is it, okay? And we're going to talk about examples and other information. Examples, other info. Okay. Now here's the other thing that we need to do. We're going to talk about 4, I just wanted to see if I can move this. We're going to talk about 4 properties today. So what we are going to want to do is split the rest of this up into 4 sections. So they can probably be equal. So I'm going to split this into half. And then I'm going to go another line that's about halfway. And up here I'm going to go about halfway in between. And then now I've got 4 equalish sections. Okay. All right, so these notes should be some pretty quick notes for you today, except for there's quite a few words, but this is all we're really going to do today. So we have our commutative, okay, property. We have our associative property. Oops. We have our identity property. And then we have something called the distributive property. Now, I'm going to show you what the distributive property is today, and I want you to be able to identify it, but next week we're going to learn how to actually apply it and how to take it apart, and this is one of my favorite things, okay? All right, so let's go up here and let's talk about what each of these things are. So the commutative property is when you just change the order of multiplication or addition problems, okay? So changing the order of multiplication or addition problems does not change the answer. Okay, a couple things I want to bring to your attention. Changing the order of multiplication or addition. Okay, this does not work with subtraction or division. Okay, so what does this really look like? Well, let me give you some examples, okay? So changing the order of a multiplication or addition problem. So for addition, it might say like 4 plus 6. Well, it's saying that's the exact same or equal to rearranging that and saying 6 plus 4. Okay, this is called the commutative property of addition. You guys have been doing this since kindergarten. Okay, we're just now putting a name to it. Now, if I wanted to write this algebraically in a generic sense, it means if I have any number x plus any other number y, that if I rearrange them and start with y and then add x, I'm going to get the exact same thing. Okay, now similarly, if I were doing the same thing with multiplication, I might say 2 times 3. Whether I start with 2 and multiply by 3, or start with 3 and multiply by 2, I'm going to get 6, right? I can also write this using variables. If I have some number q and I multiply it by a different number r, it doesn't matter if I start with q or if I start with r, I'm going to get the same thing. It's basically just saying I could rearrange the order of addition and multiplication only. I cannot rearrange the order in subtraction or division. Okay, let's talk about the associative rule. The associative rule says that multiplication and addition problems can be regrouped with parentheses without changing the answer. Okay, so again, it's multiplication and addition problems can be regrouped with, this is my shortcut for with, parentheses without changing the answer. Okay, now again, we're talking just multiplication and addition. You can't do this with subtraction or addition or division. Let's look at a couple examples. This is basically saying that if I have 3 plus the quantity 4 plus 5, that it doesn't matter if I shift my parentheses over. That actually 3 plus 4 plus 5 can be arranged a whole lot of other ways. That I can actually change it to 3 plus 4 first and then add 5 and I get the exact same thing. Okay, so if I wanted to write this algebraically, I would say that x plus the quantity y plus z is the same as the quantity x plus y, then add z. Okay, because 3 plus 9 is the same thing as 7 plus 5. I get 12 either way. I can also do this with multiplication. Okay, I can do 2 times the quantity 3 times 4. So 2 times 12. Or I can take my parentheses and shift them over and do 2 times 3 first and then multiply by 4. Do you see how I just moved with my parentheses, kind of shifted them over? Because 2 times 12 is 24 and 6 times 4 is also 24. So I can do this again. I can do, here's what it would look like algebraically. A times the quantity BC is equal to AB times C. Weird, yeah? Okay. The identity rule is something that's really cool. You have 2 rules. You have an additive identity and you have a multiplicative identity, okay? The identity is, so we have our additive, okay? Your additive identity is 0, okay? Because, this is how I simplify, because 0 added to any number is just that number. It doesn't change the answer. Okay, for instance, if I have the number 7 and I add 0, I still get 7. See, 0 is the additive identity because it doesn't change the value of my original number. Okay, so I could also write this algebraically and say a number n plus 0 equals n. This would be your proof of that. Okay, so this is your, I'm going to put a thing around this. This is your additive identity. You have a multiplicative identity. It's kind of a cool word to say. Multiplicative identity. Okay, your multiplicative identity is 1. Okay, because 1 multiplied by any number is that number. Oh, I didn't mean to do it in blue, but that's okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so tell difference though. All right, so that means that 7, or let's use a different number, 8 times 1 is just 8. See how I go straight back to my other number? So it's basically saying that P times 1 will always be P. Any number that you multiply 1 equals P. So your additive identity is always 0, and your multiplicative identity is always 1. Okay? Now, the very, very, very last one that I want you to write down, okay, this is a little bit harder to see until you actually play with it a little bit, but this is when, okay, this is when you remove parentheses. Okay, you remove parentheses by multiplying, oops, the outside number, okay, through the parentheses. Okay, now it's a little bit more than that because we need to have a sum or a difference on the inside in order for it to be considered the distributive property. But this is basically multiply the outside number by everything on the inside. Okay, let me show you a really, really cool example. So let's say that I had a number and I had 2. And I have 2 times the quantity 4 plus x. Order of operations says I have to do the parentheses first. But notice I don't know what x is right now. So I kind of get stuck. But the distributive property says, wait a minute. I say that I have 2 times 4 plus x. I have 2 times 4 plus 2 times x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 2 times 4 and I'm going to multiply 2 times x. Okay? Because I want 2 4s and 2 x's. That's what this says. I want 2 4s and 2 x's. Okay? And so what's really cool is I can just really quickly then say, well, if I need 2, and remember the number on the outside, this says to multiply when it's attached to the parentheses. So it's 2 times 4 and 2 times x. Okay? You will learn way more about this tomorrow. But I always say, I have 2 kids and I always have to think about sharing. And when I think about the distributive property, I think about to distribute means to share. And in order for my kids to share, I have 2 of them. So I say, give 1 to Chloe, give 1 to Emma. Give 1 to Chloe, give 1 to Emma. 2 times 4, 2 times x. 2 times 4, 2 times x. And then I get 8 plus 2x. Now, think about that. If I had 2 groups of 4 plus x, don't I have 2 4s, which is 8, and 2 x's, which is 2 times x? Well, that is the end of your notes today. Please take a look at the practice that you need to do. Let us know if you have any questions.